grand final win made us all believe. The world took note with Brisbane's fall. The Robins superb, now we won it all. Red Army, let's hear you sing with all your might for your world champions in the red and white. We are okay, and we are the champions of the world.
Hello and welcome to this week's Robin Pod, which is proudly powered by Budget Tyres Auto Centre, the only car specialist trusted by the players, club officials and supporters of Hull Kingston Rovers. And joining me for this week's Robin Pod, which has been released a little bit earlier than usual, is Bazza Kingston, as we look back at the Robins thumping of Wigan at Sewell Group Craven Park on Thursday night, before turning our attention to the big one in the big smoke, Hull KR versus Wigan in the Challenge Cup final at Wembley Stadium on Saturday. It's going to be a great week as we build up to that. And as we record this, Bazza, we're enjoying some great sunshine, aren't we? I'm absolutely mafting at the moment, which is a great delight. And it'll be interesting to see what the weather is like next Saturday when we take on the Wigan Warriors.
Yeah, pleasure to be back on, Johno, and you're right, mate. The weather is something else, you know. I've got my bingo wings out today before I go to work. I've got that many fans running in my bedroom, mate. I think people might think I've got a little bit of a grow going on, you know, 'cause that kind of happens on East Hull.
To be fair, mate, there's probably more fans in your living room now than there is at the Huddersfield Giants.
Oh, mate, that was a low blow. No, it's great weather, mate, and I've had a look at the weather for Wembley, and looks like it's going to be a glorious day, mate. Which I think this year compared to last year will suit Hull Kingston Rovers a lot more than it did last year. I know,
mate, by the end of the game last time out, I think I needed armbands more than I did a t-shirt.
Yeah, definitely. And like last year, I always felt with the weather, it'd kind of make it more of a level playing field for Warrington in that game, and you know, I was kind of proved to be right. But if the weather's going to stay like this, I definitely think it's going to be advantage KR, mate, because you've seen what we play like in the sunshine, mate. Fast, expansive rugby, and it'll be an absolute delight to see.
Yeah, we'll discuss that game later on in the Robin Pod. Of course, we've got Steve Till, who's joining us for Robins Revisited once again. And before we kick off, just want to send a congratulations to Hull City, who succeeded at Wembley yesterday. I know many people watching the Robin Pod and listening to it are Hull City fans, so it's great for the city. It's great for everyone who supports them, because it's been a long time coming. And anyone who watched the game yesterday and have charted the Tigers this season will know that it's a great success story. So congratulations to them. And of course, they occupied the east end of Wembley, which is where the Robin supporters will be on Saturday, and where we were last time out. It's becoming a bit of a successful end of the stadium, isn't it, Bazza? So I'm looking forward to getting into Wembley Stadium and occupying the same space, and hopefully, fingers crossed, we get the same outcome, which is a victory for a Hull-based side. Now, obviously, if you're a Hull City and Hull KR supporter, it's been a fantastic time. If you're a supporter of another side in the city, it's not been such a great time, is it? And long may that continue. Anyway, Bazza, let's go back to Thursday night. Sewell Group Craven Park. You was absolutely disgusted at the lineup that Wigan announced in terms of the squad. Of course, that was then backed up by them handing out 10 debuts on Thursday night. It just became less of a spectacle, and it became more about damage limitation for Wigan.
Yeah, it was, and it kind of felt like the atmosphere in that game was very much like when we played Lock Lane, and I don't want to put any disrespect onto Lock Lane, but it had that sort of feeling about it. Obviously, it was a lot warmer on Thursday night, which was lovely, but I just feel like it was a massive letdown. Sky hype it up as the biggest game of the year, and we were served up with that. Obviously, Wigan played the rules to a T. They named X amount of potential starters in the 21, but they didn't play them, barring Paddy Mago and Sam Esse Jr. And yeah, mate, it was an absolute disappointment. But if you want to look at the wider things of it, credit to them young lads who took to the field, mate, because some of them was barely out of nappies, mate, and they was getting thrown into the lines then, going up against seasoned professionals. And I know the scoreline was a bit of a shocker, but at times they did hold their own very, very well. And a Wigan player who did stand out for me, which it was a bit grubby, but you need that in your game, mate, was that Taylor Kerr. I thought he was a good little player, one to watch for the future. But overall, mate, it was it felt a bit of a struggle to really celebrate what was really good tries from OKR, especially from Mikey, getting an hat-trick in 17 minutes. It was hard to really enjoy that moment because of what we was up against, and I just felt like it was a letdown for the game. And we'll want to see the best of them. It was dress rehearsal before Wembley, and you'd have expected to see, if not two full-strength sides, two at least half-decent sides going at it. But a lot of people are referencing OKR of 2023. Now, I've been through that squad. I think there were 6 or 7 players in that squad in 2023 when we got thumped by Wigan that actually played at Wembley, the likes of Rowan Milnes. I know Jack Walker played at fullback that day, but if you remember in 2023, he was cup side. So we didn't do what Wigan did. We did give a lot of debutants, give them the first jersey, give them their heritage number. But as far as I'm concerned, we still played some first team players that day, and we didn't bring the game into disrepute. Whereas Wigan just, for me, took the piss with it. And there was a couple of occasions when we scored, we were stood right under where Matty Pete was in the box, and Tommy Luluai had his head in his hands, and Matt Pete was smirking, and I just thought it was an horrible look for the game, And I don't think Matt Pete will have learned anything about that game from a tactics perspective on OKR, because I felt we shifted our tactics as well. We didn't show our hand in that game. So for me, job done. Massive shout out to Ryan Hampshire. Gutted he didn't get on the scoreboard, but for a guy who's been out the game for a little while at top flight, I thought he looked quite comfortable in the halves there with Mikey. And I know in the second half it was Hampshire and Peterico, but it looked quite lively in the halves, and it just proves that Ryan Hampshire does still have it, which from an OKR perspective is quite comforting to know in case anything goes wrong in the full back position further down the track, mate. So overall, mate, it was a win. Want a great deal to celebrate. 2 points is 2 points. Our points difference looked very good, and onto Wembley, mate. But who knows, mate? That game could come back to bite Wigan in the backside, and for me, that tells me that Wigan, Matt Pete, is under a lot of pressure to bring silverware back to Wigan, and you kind of felt that, especially with that team selection.
Yeah, and look at it as well, Bazza. Whatever happens on Saturday against Wigan at Wembley, I don't think it'll have anything, whatever the result is, it'll have no bearing from a Robin's point of view on what happened and what we did on Thursday. So I think we're able to bookend that. And I'm delighted that Wigan took that approach. Do you know why? Because 2 points, plenty of points on the board. It was a great opportunity for some of the players to rotate and play in different positions, which is always something you need to do. Fingers crossed. I mean, we'll talk about a couple of the injuries that may have come out of it and what that might mean going forward. But looking at it, the only thing I'd say is I was disappointed that Matty Pete probably won't press a little bit more about why he picked the squad and what, was it. He should have been asked, well, Matty, do you envisage any of these players playing tonight to be playing at Wembley on Saturday? Because I tell you what, if they weren't playing at Wembley on Saturday, they wouldn't have put that squad out. There's no doubt whatsoever. And the fact that you said that they didn't break any the operational rules means that they very much looked at what to do to get over the line. And that's where, for me, the game's in disrepute. But do you know what? I'm not bothered about Wigan now. This was all about Ulkington Rovers making sure that we put, first of all, got the 2 points. And then what can we do next? Right, let's put some big points on. They did that. Some of the combination players were absolutely excellent. We had a bit of chaos in the second half, didn't we? When we started moving players around, we were resting players. We had a couple of players probably took off just to rest them and look after them. We also, it was the first time Tyrone May's not played for a long time. So we had to react to that. I think Ryan Hampshire coming in was really interesting, wasn't it? Because he's a player who's sneaked into the squad, really. He was training with the Robins. He was then signed up because on the back of his training and how he adapted to the camp. On Ryan Hampshire, though, I have seen a few people questioning the fact that Jack Charles wasn't put in the side. Of course, there was a lot of noise about him coming from that lot, weren't they, in the pre-season? With big things expected of him. Was this the opportunity maybe to put him in there, or did Hampshire's versatility maybe swing it? Because there's no doubt Charles is very much a halfback. Hampshire can do that centre, full back, 6-7 role. So maybe that's why he was picked over Charles.
Well, you could be absolutely bob on there, because I felt the same as yourself and many others, because I've been looking forward to seeing Jack Charles pull on the Rovers jersey for us. I mean, he did against Loch Lane, and you can only play what's in front of you, but he looked very calm and composed in that game against Loch Lane, and I did think it would have been a great opportunity for Jack to get that second game under his belt, but unfortunately, for whatever reason, Ryan Hampshire was preferred, and I think you've hit the nail on the head there with the versatility, because Willie Peters likes to have a plan B, plan C for whatever goes wrong in games where he's got to move players about, and like you've just alluded to, there was a lot of players switching around in different positions, and I think it was that versatility what is needed and valued, because I was also disappointed that Bill Leyland missed out in that game as well, for whatever reason. But again, you're talking about a player like Bill Leyland and Jack Charles, who was an halfback and an hooker, respectively. That is literally their primary positions, and they don't really cover any other positions. So maybe it was just a game to get a look at moving people about in game due to adversity, what may suit us well further down the track in games. But I am gutted for Jack. I'm gutted for Bill that they didn't make the starting 17. I mean, Jack didn't even make the 21. So hopefully...
Well, that's what I thought. I wondered if he was going out on loan to someone. I thought with him not being in the 21, thought maybe they've moved him on somewhere. The
biggest surprise for me was seeing Jack Brown in the side. Now, I'm a big fan of Jack Brown with the whole story of him being a Eastern lad, done his time in the East, and now he's out playing for his boyhood club. To see him get announced for Castleford, not officially, but via Matt Shaw and Love Rugby League, and then been named in the 21, which was a bit of an head scratcher. Then to see him in the 17, which was another head scratcher. So I was surprised at that as well, after seeing him being announced for Castleford with immediate effect. So what's going to come out of that, I don't know, because again, I think Jack held his own very well. I mean, every time he's pulled on the Rovers jersey, that lad's never let us down. So
I tell you what, he's running on with some real aggression.
It really is. It really is. And I don't know if any of the fans noticed what was kind of great to see was Tavita Pangai Jr. sat with the team on the touch line, and in the second half I moved to the other side, because obviously that's where I thought a lot of the tries would be scored, so I'll see a bit more of the game, and it was just in front of us, and he was sat with Tyrone, and he looked happy, full of smiles, and it looked like he was really embracing what Craven Park had to offer and a place he could call home. So that was nice to see Tavita in and amongst the squad and what we're about. So yeah, that's handy. But going back to Jack Charles, mate, we're fans. We can call for players to come in, but end of the day, who are we compared to the guy who's brought every trophy available to East Ulmer? He's made the calls, and looking at he's made the right calls. He put Wigan to the sword by a healthy scoreline, and we got through the game relatively okay, barring two players. So, hey, it's better to go to Wembley, battle hard, and than not, in my opinion. So, yeah. And for me, it shows with Jack Brown, there's obviously no breakdown in relationship between him and Willie Peters. I think, was it last week's press conference, Willie Peters did allude to the fact that a player had already decided his future. Now, in the past, we've probably seen them players cascade, not included in the squad and almost put to a side. So, like you said, it's great to see him there. We saw Tyrone May rested.
Joe Burgess was another one, but there's no talk whatsoever of them being any long-term absentees. I think it purely was just on that rotation to give Tyrone May, and they're probably maybe a couple of players who are feeling a bit of a knock, and it was a great opportunity. I think of all the talk of Wigan blooding youngsters, what keeps getting forgot about, and a player who keeps getting forgot about, is Noah Booth. I don't think when I've watched it back, no one mentions the fact that he's pretty much the same age as a lot of them Wigan players who were coming in for their debuts, and he's quietly just going about his business. So it was great to see him get on the scoreboard. It's really hard to analyse the tries in it and put real good credit on them because of the opposition. All I'll say is the players were fully professional, and Mikey Lewis, that hat trick. It'll do wonders for him, the fact that he scored them 3 tries with relative ease, but it was great to see him running at pace. We saw Martin come with 9 conversions from the 11 tries. Sam Luckley getting another try, getting his first try of the season. You don't want to read too much into it, but they just look like a well-oiled machine. More so, what was reassuring is in the second half when the changes were being made, we got the opportunity to rest a few players. It got a little bit clunky, but there never seemed to be much of a threat or any weakness in our performance.
No, it was kind of maintained, whereas before the change, we felt like we was pushing on every play. And then in the second half, we made the changes and we weren't pushing on so much. It was more maintaining. And I don't want to discredit Wigan's try because it was an excellent try from the young lad, but it was off a forced pass what didn't need to be made. And that's the things that you'll learn in the game, where when to force a pass and when not to. So that came off the back of an error, which Rovers will learn from. But with all the changes, I felt like we just kind of maintained our performance. We didn't take it up another gear. It was just more of a maintenance, and we got a few tries on the back of it, and we got through for the win. And we didn't score as many because after 17 minutes, Mikey going in for an hat trick, I genuinely felt like it was going to be a lot playing part. So, and it was
42-0 at half time, Bazza.
Yeah.
And you look at it, we only then went. We only then went on to score another 20 points. Obviously, we conceded that try. I reckon if we'd have maintained the squad, we could have, gone big points. But it's quite understandable why certain players went off, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Mikey had done his fair share of grafting that first half, mate, and had a well-earned rest. I think a few of the Wigan players was trying to get under his skin, but credit to Mikey. He comes in for a lot of criticism this year, but I think he kept his cool at the right time, mate. And, Wigan was really, really pressing him. And Willie Peters, that's why he's arguably the best coach in England, mate. Upped him at the right time before it gets too heated and the game was gone. So, massive credit to Mikey. He'll be gearing up for next week, mate, because I think that's going to be one hell of a game, mate. I really don't.
I don't doubt that whatsoever. And one player who did manage to get under Tom Amon's skin was Sam Esse Jr. Obviously, that tackle. Any other game, I'm saying that's a yellow card straight away. I think the referee has took pity on Wigan and not doing it. But any time that them legs are raised above the head, regardless of whether you land on your back or not, for me, is a yellow card every day of the week.
He is, and he's a very, very lucky boy. And obviously, we're recording this on the Sunday, so we're not going to get to find out from a disciplinary point of view till probably Monday, Tuesday. It's bank holiday, so it might be a bit later. But that was a bit naughty. But you'll have to refresh my memory. But Sam Esse got absolutely flattened not long after that. Was it by Jez Litton or someone?
Yeah, well, he had a number on his back, didn't he? After that, there was a few times where
he got flattened. Yeah, it was a great
job. And well deserved, and it was just not in keeping with the game really, which was played in pretty good spirits. But hey, that's what happens when you spend a bit of time over in that side of the city, isn't it? Things that you normally do, or the way you normally conduct yourself goes out the window. Jack Broadbent, you can't not mention him. 27 carries of 329 meters.
Is that what he did?
Yeah, I'd love to see what the records are in Super League. I should have probably done a bit of research. There's no doubt someone out there will know, records in terms of meters made. But an outstanding effort. And do you know what? Forget the opposition. 27 carries, 329 metres. I think he got the Sky Sports Man of the match.
Well, did you see the clip on Super League on socials after the game?
Go on.
He got interviewed by Jenna Brooks, and he told Jenna Brooks that I'll be playing fullback at Wembley. And then Jenna Brooks interviewed Willie Peters, and Jenna actually said to Willie that Jack's already told her that he'll be playing fullback at Wembley. And Willie was quite surprised, and it was just a great bit of banter between them. Like, Jack's already picked himself without Willie say so, mate. But it was a good bit of banter, and yeah, it was great to see. And Jack again still looks happy as ever, mate. And I think that number one shirt his family is for the foreseeable.
Yeah, there's no one else in contention for Wembley, is there? You know, and you know, I tell you what, if we have a return of them stats in the Challenge Cup final, that's us lifting the trophy, because if your fullback's making that many metres, it just shows you the dominance of the side, and no doubt about that whatsoever. It was a good result, because with the results over the course of this weekend, particularly with St Helens losing to Castleford, who seem to be doing the Robins a favour at the moment, bearing in mind we've got a game in hand. You know, we're very handily placed now. We're just 2 points behind Leeds and St Helens. Of course, as we're recording this, Warrington are playing Bradford, so we don't know what's going to happen with that. But with that game in hand, we are very handily placed. And that's why I'm so pleased that the Robins took that game on Thursday night so seriously. Yeah,
absolutely. And I looked at the league table before a ball was kicked on Thursday, and I was still scratching my head. I was saying I've only lost 2 games, and one of them was getting thumped by us. I think for me that's just a false sense of security. Them being at the top of the league, you know, it was kind of a false position. When Castleford put them to the sword, and quite comfortably, I might add as well. It just backs up like where we are at right now, because we won't slip against the likes of, and no disrespect to Castleford, but I couldn't see us slipping to results like that. As for Leeds, again, they did a professional job on Huddersfield at the weekend, mate. Put a massive score on Huddersfield. So it could potentially, for me, in my humble opinion, it could end up being a 2-horse race, because I know Leeds was awful against Wigan, but if they're putting teams like that to the side, very much like we are, who's to say it won't be KR and Leeds 1 and 2 come end of the year, mate. Really fighting for it, because they're doing big jobs and they're not throwing games like Wigan are. So yeah, mate, it's been a crazy weekend.
That Wigan loss almost puts Wigan out the league leaders shield race for me. Yeah. Like, they're going to have to put a massive run together at some point, I think, to put themselves top of the table. And
seriously damage their points difference, mate. They're only on plus 44 now, and Rovers are on plus 215, and that's not something that's going to be gathered back quite easily, because I've looked at the fixtures even for Wigan after the Challenge Cup final, mate. They've got a bit of a rough run, mate, and I can't say if things go against Wigan, I'd be surprised if they met the top 4. Genuine.
Big call, mate. It's a big call, because there's always that famous saying, isn't there? You know, we always, it don't matter what Wigan do at the start of the season, worry about them at the back end. Do you think they're able to mount it again, or do you think that's getting further and further away from?
I think it's getting further and further away. I think we're going to have to pull something out of the bag like what Leeds did and try and win it from 5th or 6th, mate, this year. And they are very, very capable of doing that. Take nothing away from them, but I think that game, what they've just done at the weekend, mate, has been a massive blunder for them, especially if they're genuine title contenders and they're serious about that, because I know it's something Willie Peters won't do. I mean, if you reference 2023, you know, we was desperate for a trophy. We didn't consider ourselves as a top 2 side, mate. So I think, given the opportunity, I dare say if we'd have played on Thursday, a dress rehearsal, even if we'd have played Castleford, York, Toulouse, I think we'd have still put our strongest available side out, because we're going after everything. We're not throwing at anything. And that's what I mean by Matty Pete is a coach under pressure to deliver silverware. So he's having to sacrifice something at one end to try and bring something in at the other end. If this goes tits up for him on Saturday, he really is under pressure, mate. And that's why I don't believe they'll make the top 4. they'll definitely make the top 6, and that they have every possibility of winning it from the 6. You know, you can't write anything like that off. But I think for me, that game has solidified Wigan's season, especially with the games they've already lost. And I think they've got too much catching up to do. You've got your OKI, you've got Leeds, you've got Wire, who's in good form, scoring lots of points, and I just don't think they'll be caught.
Yeah, and you know who I think's really driving, particularly that team selection on Thursday, as much as Willie Peters is at the top of the tree, I think that senior leadership group of players have almost said no. You know, they're almost that comfortable with, you know, if I get injured, I know someone else will step in. And it's not about their personal glory. It's about what's best for the team and what's best for the club. And I think that's where they've took on that responsibility to probably, you know, there'll be a conversation, I reckon, between Willie Peters and them senior players to say, look, you know, what should we do? And I reckon the players will have gone, no, we go hard, we go strong, we chase every game, we chase every win. We don't rest on our laurels, and we don't expect to be rested. And I think that's where that's the connectivity between the playing group and the coach. And I think the vast majority, I'd say, you know, a good 95% of supporters would have agreed with that approach as well. I wanted them to play the best team because I want 2 points. Yeah,
wholeheartedly agree, mate, because we're going after everything. We don't just want one thing, we'll want everything. And to go 5 trophies on the spin, mate, that'd be unbelievable for OKR. To go back with the Challenge Cup, you know, it don't stop there. I know I'm going to sound a bit cheesy here, but when it got announced that Willie was joining PSG, I dropped him a message on Instagram. You know, thank you for everything you've done for us and whatnot in East Hull, mate. You've changed our club. Thank you for giving everything to us. And his reply to me was, "The season's not over. We've still got a lot of silverware to win yet." And that was back when we and PNG announced him as coach, and that's the mentality of Hull Kingston Rovers. That's the mentality of Willie Peters, mate. He's going after absolutely everything. He's taking absolutely nothing for granted. So
you surprised me with that, Bazza. You surprised me, mate, because I thought the message back would have been, "Will you stop bloody messaging me? I'm trying to coach." Okay,
yeah, mate. He's got an injunction out on me now.
Yeah, no, you're right, mate. We're chasing it on all fronts, and it's a pleasure in it after all these years of hurt and disappointment, and just competing, being the best we could do. You know, we're now, I think, getting to a point where we're starting to dominate, and hopefully Saturday afternoon will rubber stamp that, because I think it'll send out a big message to the rest of Super League about our intentions for the rest of the season. Hopefully it'll put a nail in Wigan's League Leaders Shield and Grand Final aspirations, a nail in their coffin for that as well, because, hey, let's see what happens on Saturday. We're going to talk about it in more detail very shortly, Bazza. And, of course, we've got news of when that game in hand against Warrington is going to be rearranged for. But before we discuss that, Steve Till joins us once again for Robins Revisited.
Hi, Chris, and we're going to go back 14 years to 2012, the Etihad Stadium in Manchester, home of Manchester City, and it's the 216th derby, Hull KR versus Hull. And what a thriller we got, with a nail-biting finish in the dying seconds. Hull started brightly and led 18-12 at half-time. We converted tries from Brett Seymour, Richard Horne and Willie Manu, while Craig Hall and Shannon McDowell scored tries for Rovers. The Craig Hall try was scored by himself because Michael Dobson was in the sin bin, and Shannon McDowell's try was converted by Dobson. Dave Hodgson cut the deficit to 2 points with an unconverted try after the break, but FC went further ahead thanks to Tony Martin and Jordan Turner. Their tries converted by Danny Tickle. So Hull had 30 points and Rovers had 16 with about 25 minutes to go. now a director at Rovers, Sam Laters, a winger, dragged Rovers back into the contest. And then the stage was set for a nail-biting finish when Michael Dobson crossed to put the Robins behind by just 2 points, despite Hull's protestations that Rhys Lovegrove's pass in the build-up was forward. Steve Gamson waved those protestations away, awarded the try. Another controversial moment for Gamson in Magic Weekend. Those moments followed him around. Even so, Rovers had to score from a scrum, barely 10 metres from their own line on the final play of the game if they were going to win it. After going up the right side, the ball was switched to the left wing with some deft handling from McDonnell and centre Chris Wellham. And they set up Hodgson. They sent Hodgson away down the touchline on a 70-yard run where he blasted his way past the Hull defence, leaving the Hull winger, his opposite number, trailing in his wake to touchdown in the corner just as the siren sounded, the hooter went, and there were dozens of wildly cheering Rovers fans in that corner as Rovers snatched victory from the jaws of defeat by 32 points to 30. As I say, one of the greatest wingers' tries I've ever seen scored by Rovers, and a marvellous ending to a marvellous game.
Another great trip there, Bazza, down memory lane. And some people suggesting now, because Steve Till referenced there the Etihad, maybe that's the venue for the challenge, the grand final. They've increased their capacity. Old Trafford, of course, has been the long-term home of the grand final. We know, of course, the pitch doesn't actually meet the requirements for a Super League game. Do you think it's time to move it, or are you quite happy leaving it at Old Trafford?
Yeah, it's got the magic of Old Trafford, hasn't it? It's got that history very much like Wembley, but I don't believe it will be time for change. I'm not sure going to a bigger venue would be the right decision. The Etihad would be a great call, even though it's a slightly bigger venue than Old Trafford, so it just means seeing them emptier seats. But I don't believe that. Something might have to change, but it's got to go somewhere relatively special, in my opinion, because Old Trafford has become incredibly special to Super League in the grand final. So I don't believe it is potentially time for change because, like you say, that pitch is dangerous in that in goal.
Yeah, I don't like it. Yeah, no. Yeah, I like Old Trafford, but I understand from a playing point of view.
Yeah,
is it the best place? So, hey, right, I have to be. The big question before we recorded the podcast, I put it on social media, Instagram and Facebook, and we've had a great response. Now, I'm going to pose this question to you, Bazza. With many supporters of rival clubs claiming that the standard of Super League is currently the worst it's ever been, I want to know, are they right, or is it just sour grapes?
No, I don't think I don't know. It's hard. We're starting to see some blowout scores now, which is great to see for the game, whether that's within a club's control, i.e. Wigan, or, Huddersfield getting pumped at Leeds. It's really not a great look for the game. But if you want to look at a decent quality game, just reference yourself to the League KR game last week, mate. The quality was brilliant. I know there was a few handling errors in that first half, but it was edgy seat stuff in bad conditions. And Catalan and York last night, a tight game. It looked like it was done, but York never gave up, mate. So I think this year was always going to be a transition year, and people are going to pick out the negatives in it. But these three clubs that's come up with another year under the belt and a bigger salary cap to spend, bigger revenue what they'll receive so they can spend more, I think it will only enhance the competition. But for me, on a whole, I don't believe it has been diluted too much. Maybe slightly in certain areas, but I think it's just a great season, mate, where we're seeing teams can beat anyone, and we've seen that on numerous occasions this year. And I don't think that's down to lack of quality, mate. I just think that's the Super League table. That's the Super League as a whole closing the net, where anybody can beat anybody on any given day. So, it's only going to get better, in my opinion.
Yeah, and it has been a funny season because, you only have to look at the Castleford result against St Helens. You'll have to look at Castleford beating Wigan. Some of the lower sides, that lot beating Leeds. There's been some some funny scores. So I think, though, when Super League was probably at its prime, you had 4 teams who you could not, you couldn't pick between them to who would win the grand final, playoff, all that. At the moment, I don't see. I think the Robins, for me, are the best team in Super League right now. I don't think Wigan are there. St Helens, literally from week to week, you don't know what they're going to put out there. And even Leeds, on their day, they can be absolutely brilliant. But on the flip side, we saw what they served up against Wigan, and you don't know what you get from them. So I just think it's the Robins who are taking their opportunity by playing consistently, and just going through it. I don't think the Super League is necessarily weaker, because the other conversation, Bazza, is when Rover supporters try and compare the current side to the team of the 80s and do it. It's just different. It's just a different time, isn't it?
Yeah, you can't do all that. It's a completely different game. These athletes are a lot more lean, a lot more. They can do bigger minutes. The game's completely different from the 80s. In the 80s, they played winter rugby, which, with respect to our boys right now, will go out and give everything. And what none of us mere mortals could do, I don't think even these boys could handle winter rugby, what the class of the 80s could. So, for me, it's a completely different game. It's different physicalities.
I think it's just different. It's just different, isn't it? It's just different. And what you've seen, though, is, people complain that in this country, rugby league or the people at the top aren't brave enough, aren't bold enough to evolve the game. And I think what we've done is expand it to 14 teams, try and put a bit of a security net in there to go, right, year one, you might not be the best. There might be some blowout scores, but you've got the opportunity over the second and third year to improve your squad, build up your fan base, get the numbers in, get your income better than what it is. And then that's when you should be judged. And I think that's where we've got to accept at certain points this season, there are some games just that are pretty on the eye. If you're watching some of the games, there is some games out there which aren't doing great for the spectacle. But that said, we've got to probably be bold and be brave and just back it. And because I think ultimately, as a competition, we will be better in the end for it.
Well, 100%. And like I referenced earlier, a lot of these teams are doing things tough on half the money they received, and they're competing very, very well. We saw how well Toulouse competed with Wakefield, who was tipped to be up there with the top 4 this year, and the NAF gave Wakefield a game yesterday. So I think it's just a matter of this year was always going to be a bit like a trial, and we're not sure what to expect, but we are seeing teams compete week in, week out, and unfortunately along the way we're seeing blowout scores, and it's not a great advert for the game. But like you say, if you persevere with it, things will get better and clubs will strengthen in areas that's needed, whether it's within the squad, the staff, the promotion of the team. I think things will get better if we just persevere with it and stick by it, and I can genuinely see it being happening. And this year, I know you've said Rovers don't look the most consistent, which I do wholeheartedly agree, but we're still that team with a target on our back, and we see teams come to us and really raise the game. And, who's to say that we won't be in for a shock, and I don't want to speak negative of Rovers, but our game after Wembley is Wakefield away, mate, and they're tipped for big things as well. So I believe that's going to be a game where absolutely anything can happen. So for me, the game is getting better, and we're not having the likes of, and no disrespect, but Salford who's getting pumped week in, week out like we did last year. So for me, the game is improving. we are still seeing some blowout scores, but I don't think they'll be eradicated soon. But if you watch a lot of NRL, mate, a lot of their games are massive scoring games. Does that mean it's poor quality? Does that mean it's bad defence? It's not. It's just the excitement.
It's a great point. Not once have I seen, when the NRL where you get a blowout score, there's too many teams or anything like that. Not once do you ever get that. You just, so yeah, totally right. Anyway, let's move on because it was announced in the Warrington Guardian that the 18th of August has been locked in for the game against Warrington, which is, of course, was supposed to be played at the start of the season, which creates a very congested fixture list at that time because the Robins are scheduled to play Catalans at home on the Friday night. They're then supposed to host Warrington on the Tuesday night before then hosting Toulouse on the Thursday night, which is a crazy run of fixtures, isn't it? Now, the subsequent the following game after the Toulouse one is Wigan away on the 27th of August. So you do wonder, and then that Friday game against Catalans and the Thursday one against Toulouse, whether there's some flex to put one forward or to bring one back just to create an extra day. But it's whether they do that or not, and even if they do that, Bazza, it's still going to be a big, tough run of games.
Well, I have heard on pretty decent authority from numerous people that it looks like the Toulouse game is going to be on the Saturday, which does make sense. End of the day, what you got to think about here is player welfare, and that's paramount because we scrapped the Easter weekend fixtures because they want enough rest between games. So if they spread them out correctly, yeah, they should do it right. I just feel for the people who can't make it for the Tuesday night. I mean, ultimately, OKR are gonna suffer for that more than Warrington because a Tuesday night is not an ideal night to play a fixture. If it was a Friday night, a Saturday afternoon, a Sunday afternoon, Craven Park against Warrington will be packed out. Warrington will travel in decent numbers. The stadium would be packed out, but on a Tuesday night, it's hard for people to move things around with work commitments. You can't expect Warrington to travel in huge numbers on a Tuesday night, especially if they've had a game on the Saturday, whether it's home or away. It's a tough ask not only for Hull Kingston Rovers fans, but for Warrington fans as well. I know Rovers fans will be there, in great numbers like they always are, but I'm not expecting to see a full sellout from a Rovers point of view, unfortunately, which is understandable. But ultimately, it will be Rovers who will miss out financially on that, which is a bit of a shame, really. And especially with the two French teams either side of it, and we know they don't travel well. So hopefully, we can get our stadium packed out for them two games.
It's a great point, mate, because you've got 3 home games in real quick succession, which is always financially draining, let alone the fact you're then playing 2 of them against French teams who will bring next to no one. So maybe the club will be creative in how they can get more people through the door. So we'll see. Do you know what, though? What I think around this fixture, Bazza, is that certain clubs, and we saw that, I dare say, with Wigan on Thursday night, instead of relishing the opportunity and taking it on the opportunity, they'd rather complain about it and say it's too much. And I think the Robins just go through the next game. They'll look forward to the next game, whenever that may be, and they'll put the best squad out, and then they go at it. Whereas other sides seem to feel sorry for themselves. Now, I'm not saying Warrington are going to do that. I'm just looking at it from a Rovers point of view. And I think, as a supporter looking at it, it's a tough run of fixtures. But the players, they look like they'll just get on to the next one, on to the next one, on to the next one, and relish playing them games. And I think that's where the mentality is different for us at OKR at the moment.
Yeah, it really is. And this is why we've got such a great coach who knows that squad inside out. And we were talking about how we rotated in the second half against Wigan. That little bit of practice, that little bit of what we did in the second half under adverse conditions, switching things about, preparing, them sort of tactics might come in handy further down the track in that block of games where we're having to move people about, who can play where, and so what we learned in the second half against Wigan might come into fruition in that box of games in August with the Warrington and the two French teams. So either way, I know we'll go all out at it. And if players are fit and healthy and they're willing to put their hands up to play, mate, I think they'll all be at it. And yeah, I know Willie will get his squad right.
Yeah, no doubt. Okay, mate. Challenge Cup, Saturday afternoon, under the arch at Wembley. A place I will never ever get bored of going to. Absolutely fantastic stadium. It's one that's been anticipated. It's been supported very well. I think they're expecting 20 to 22,000 OKR supporters there. Yeah, it's the big one, isn't it? I feel more relaxed though than I've ever felt before going into a big game. I just think I'm supremely confident about these boys and the big game players will stand up at the right time. I just think these players are prepped, they're primed, they've been there before. Most importantly, now they've done it. You know, they know the prep. You know, you're probably, without knowing the full details of what happened before, they're probably gonna prep the same, stay at the Hilton across the road from Wembley. They'll have the training ground where they all remember it from last year. You know what I mean? It's all building. I suppose the only danger, and I don't think they will, but the only danger is that you get too comfortable. And who knows? We didn't expect to see that performance from Warrington, did we? You know, what they put in. And so we didn't expect that because they were beat up at the time. They weren't playing with their best squad. But I just think they'll find a way. I just think they'll do it.
I'm with you, and I don't think they'll be comfortable. I think personally, in my humble opinion, I think Wigan Warriors have already done Rovers team talk with the antics they pulled on Thursday night. So for me, I think it'll be full-blooded. If we can keep our discipline, I think that's going to be key to us, is keeping our discipline in that game, because you know certain personnel will be going out to go at Mikey. We saw the famous dive last year from Harry Smith trying to milk a penalty when he collapsed on his goal line when Mikey brushed his head. I think for me, what's key is discipline. I don't think they'll be taking anything for granted. I think they'll be going full-blooded at it. They want it more than anything. I kind of get the vibe they want it more this year than they did last year, and I'm not taking anything away from last year. Far from it. But Elliot Minchella has referenced time and time again, it's like a drug. It's addictive, that winning feeling. You never get bored of that. And the more, I'm getting goosebumps, mate, talking about it, the more they go at it, the more they want from it. And it's that's what's going to be the driving force. I mean, even Tom Amon coming into the side, he knows what it feels like. He won that game in 2023. He knows that feeling, and he'll want that experience again. So I think we're going to go full-blooded at it. I'm praying to God it's not a game like last year, because I don't think my ticker could take it. But if that's what it takes, that's what it takes. But I think we're going to go full-blooded at it, and I think Wigan's going to be surprised what comes their way, because I think we've got more than enough to handle Wigan. We've got more than enough to handle their forward pack. We get under Harry Smith's skin, you know, he goes to shit. Arguably one of the best in-game kickers. When he's on his day, when he's on his game, he's arguably one of the best. But if we can get under his skin, you know, he goes to shit. We've seen it time and time again. Same with Kieran when his head goes. So if we can do things legally on the line, but keep our discipline, I think we're in a great spot. It's going to be one hell of an atmosphere, and I just want to pay a massive tribute, mate. If we take 22,000 all Kingston Rovers fans to Wembley on Saturday, mate, that's one hell of achievement, especially what all Kingston Rovers fans have had to fork out this year with the Vegas, with the Challenge Cup semi-final, with the lot that's travelled to Catalan, to Toulouse, you know, they're giving everything to this club. And not only that, all City fans, mate, massive shout out, because there's so many of them who's diehard Robin fans. Scott Solway, who's a regular on the pod, he's diehard City fan. He was there last week and he's going to be there next week. And it's fans like that who'll keep turning out, not just for the big games, but for every game. And that's what's valued at our club, mate. And, you know, it's invaluable. So massive credit to everyone who's travelling down. And if you see a little old VW camper van brought down on the hard shoulder, mate, give us a lift, because I'm going to risk taking my van to London on Saturday. So if you see me brought down, bring a tour up, won't you?
Mate, don't preempt it. Don't preempt it. Go in confidence.
Anything can happen, mate, but I can't wait. I'm ready for it now, and that's not a cocky thing. That's not an arrogant thing. It feels like it's been a long time coming, and I just can't wait to get there now.
Yeah, mate, that is one of the reasons why we're recording the Robin Pod so early. Normally it'd be later on in the week, but other than the squad news, there's hopefully not much going to break. I mean, I'm tempting fate here, but if we just look at the squad, I mean, we saw Tyrone May obviously rested against Wigan last time out. Joe Burgess, he was rested. There's been no noise around them about them having any long-term injuries. I do think it's a genuine rotation. Obviously, during that victory over Wigan, we did see a couple of players go off. Dean Hadley, Carl Lawton. I mean, we've seen already with Dean Hadley. Literally, if his leg was hanging off, he'd probably have to go in a wheelchair and wheel me back onto the pitch. So unless, like I said, it's a really serious injury, Dean Hadley will play. I mean, there's probably the biggest question mark is over Lawton. You know, he caught that big nose injury, didn't he? That deep wound. It looked like he was maybe having a hamstring injury. We don't know. If he does not play, which is a big if, of course, we've been practicing. We've been playing with him in that starting hooker role. It's a big shift, that, isn't it, if he doesn't start, because that's what we've been practicing over the last few weeks, and that's how we've been starting.
It is, isn't it? If Carl is unfortunate to miss out due to injury, I think it's going to be huge for us. I think what Carl's done over the last 3 weeks with that starting role, that 15, 20 minutes, I think it's been a little bit underappreciated, the work that he gets through, and I don't believe that will be missed. I pray to God that he does make it, because we've kind of seen the class of 2025 with the Mickey Mack, Jez Litton role. We've kind of seen that really, really working over the last few weeks. But on the flip side, we can be confident in Jez is an 80-minute hooker, mate, and he will be ferocious from minute 1 to minute 80. So whatever happens, I'm comfortable with. I think what is going under the radar, what's going to be absolutely invaluable for Old Kingston Rovers, is having James Batch back. Absolute tackling machine. You know, we've missed him for a couple of weeks. He's going to be great to have back in the side. So we have got more options there in the second row. But Carl Lawton, I don't know if he's going to make it, mate. I'd love him to, but, you know, it's a long week, mate, and we don't know the severity. I mean, we saw Mickey Mack play a grand final with a broken ankle. You know, he played Wembley with a torn biceps. So that these guys are tough, mate. Stick a few painkilling injections in them, and if they feel they're good to go, they'll go have a go, mate, if they can give 100%. So whoever turns out for Rovers, I know they'll be preps at the highest standard, and they will give everything for Old Kingston Rovers to bring that trophy back home to East Hull.
Yeah, it's going to be another great occasion. Hopefully, fingers crossed, the Robins come away with that trophy, and it's another victory parade, and it's another Sunday afternoon in Queen Victoria Square, celebrating the players and their fantastic achievement. Of course, there's 80 minutes of rugby between that, isn't there? And it's going to be a very absorbing encounter. As much as we give the Robins credit, you can't not look past Wigan sometimes because of the way that they do just show up at the right times in the big games. So that's why I think there's so many eyes on this game, because it is really one that's capturing the imagination of the rugby league supporters. Wembley's going to be hopefully packed out. Hopefully the sun's shining. Hopefully it's a great day of rugby league, and hopefully, Bazza, the sun is shining on the righteous, which means the Robins will come away with that victory. Bazza, a huge thank you for your contribution. Steve Till, thank you for Robins Revisited. If you're down at Wembley on Saturday, it's always great to catch up. I love interacting and seeing people who listen to the Robin pod, so don't be shy. Please come across and let's have a chat about the Robins. But Bazza, for now, live, love, laugh and be happy.
This is the Robin Pod. Robin Pod. This is the Robin Pod. Whoa. Throughout the years, whatever the game, the Red Army won the cup, we ruled the league. A grand final win made us all believe. The world took note with Brisbane's fall. The Robins superb, now we won it all. Red Army, let's hear you sing with all your might. For your world champions in the red and white. We are okay, and we are the champions of the world.